Hey, it's Chris, and today I'm doing a real short video on integrating Sony TVs with Savant via a new profile for IP control of Sony's newest TVs. What's really cool is that Sony has opened up the API to allow us to call streaming services directly on the TV, and we're going to go through how to set it up and what it can do for you in a Savant system. So stay tuned. So before we do anything, we need to set up our TV. Instructions to do this are helpfully located in the profile notes for the TV. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Settings, and we are going to set up our network. On this particular one, we're using a wired connection. You can set it for either DHCP or static. If you're going to use DHCP, you definitely want to reserve the address. We're going to set it for static in this case, just because I know what devices are on our network. We're going to go to Remote Start and select On, Powered On by Apps. That's going to allow the profile to turn the thing on with a Wacom LAN signal. We're going to go to Remote Device Settings. We're going to enable Control Remotely. That's going to allow the TV to accept our commands. We're going to go to Home Network. We're going to go to IP Control. We're going to change our authentication to normal and pre-shared key. And then we're going to change our pre-shared key to 1234. And again, this is located in the profile notes. Just make it 1234 and you'll be good to go. From there, we're going to enable simple IP control. And we're going to acknowledge that it's going to cause more power consumption because it's never going to fully stand by. That's it. We're going to review our settings, go back through, make sure that they're all set. Not a whole lot of settings in here to enable this, and that's it. What we'll do to get started is we'll open up our library, and we will choose our X95K profile and bring that into our config. Bring that in, and we'll pick the Sony TV zone that I conveniently created before we started the video, and we'll call it Sony TV. Okay. From there, we need to give it some IP control. So we are going to just pick our generic switch, and we'll give it a fake IP address, like so. And now, that's actually all you need if it's just an individual TV in that room. So we can open this up and look at our resources. We can see that we've got everything enabled for it to be what we need it to be in a room by itself. Obviously, if you're using this with an AVR or something else, you might turn off the stereo speaker sync or not control the volume from the TV. On a simple system, it's like this. You can basically uncheck whatever resources you need. We are going to uncheck the TV source because we're not going to use this as a tuner. So we'll uncheck that. And we're going to take a look here at our enabled in zones and uncheck all the ones we don't need. Okay, so from there, let's close our library and inspector. Generate our services. Now we have all of these new services. Ignore everything above here. These are our brand new Sony TV, and what they are different variants for the most frequently used streaming services that you might come across. So you see here, these are all disabled, and we're going to leave them that way for a minute because we're going to hit Done. And we're going to open up our services window, go to our TV zone, and then we're going to see them again right here. So within here, if you click on one of these, you'll see down here in this window that this is the YouTube Kids variant. And that's the YouTube variant. And this is the Voodoo variant, Sling TV. So there's quite a few of these that are in here. We're going to go through and we're going to enable and show Netflix, let's see, Amazon Prime, Apple TV. I'm just going to do a couple of these just to kind of show you for example's sake. There you go. Okay, so what we've got is Amazon, Apple TV, Disney Plus, Netflix, 4 of the most commonly used ones. Okay, so now that we've got those enabled, go there, and we can now save our config. That's a smart thing to do. There we go. And now, in our Savant app preferences, we can go in here and we can see in this list somewhere, and I probably should have used a blank config, but we have a media server with all of our different variants in this list. So now we can go through and we can see, we can give this a name that makes sense on a remote, right? So we can call this, I don't know, TV apps. That's a good one. And from here, we're going to need to rename these for what these are. So the important thing to note is this little number right here, what this service variant is, because that's what's going to point to what is what. So hit done for a second. Let's go back to our services window. I'm going to go back to our Sony TV zone. It's always a good idea to write these down. But we see here that one is Amazon, right? That's that little number here. That is your service variant, right? So this number matches the number in the other one. We just need to make sure that we know what the name is, right? So 1 is Amazon, 2 is Apple, 3 is Disney, 7 is Netflix. So we can take that information, we can go back, go into our app preferences, go back down to our TV apps, like here, and call that Amazon. Call number 2 Apple TV. And this is what is going to show up in your services list. Disney and Netflix. Oh, looks like I put it in the wrong spot. So let's just do a quick copy and paste here. I'm actually not entirely sure which one of these fields reflects what we show on the screen. So I'm going to be safe and just name them both. We'll hit done. So one more thing we want to do before we compile and load this thing is we want to go to Tools, and we want to go to Branding Icons. Okay, and we can see in this list I have some things already, but this Sony TV is the new one. And one of the nice things we can do is go in here and change our icon. So this is going to be the master icon that shows up in the UI. And when you tap it, it's going to bring up a list of the streaming services that we just enabled. So it's a nice thing to change this over to Sony. And it makes everything look real nice. And for some reason, we have to generate services after we do that. Sure, why not? Okay, now when I preview our app UI, so now when we go into preview in our app and we hit connect and go to the room that we just created, the Sony TV zone, we see that there's a little Sony icon here in the services dock, and we hit Sony. And we are given a choice of our 4 streaming services. So now when we hit this, it'll turn on the TV, it'll go directly to that streaming service, and nice and easy for your client. And so here's what it looks like on a remote control. So you can see here in our services list, we have our shared services, and then we have our Sony TV. Click on that, we get our list of our 4 streaming services. Press any one of those, it turns the TV on and goes directly to that streaming source. If you go back, or go back, there you go. Hit it again, pick a different service. TV instantaneously changes to the next service. You got all your regular controls, your hard buttons work as you'd expect them to. And then when it's time to turn it off, TV app's off, turns off your TV. Nice and easy. So from our regular Google homepage, we're going to hit the Netflix button here right now. You can see that Netflix comes right up, nice and easy. You can navigate with the buttons through the UI, piece of cake. Now we hit the Disney button right now. Goes straight to Disney. You can pick your profile, navigate all your typical functions, go right in there, no problem. Search through it. All the buttons on a remote work as you'd expect. And now we hit Amazon right now. And it goes right to your Amazon. Again, you can pick your profile right out of here, use the buttons, it'll load. And the next thing we'll try is Apple TV. We'll hit that now. And Apple TV comes right up. Apple TV was the fastest one out of all of them. I mean, they're all super fast, but Apple TV was definitely, a slight bit faster. But yeah, that's really it. I mean, it is a very, very tight profile, very tight integration. Works on a wired network as you would expect, and pretty great. How this profile is written in terms of a little bit better functionality, a little bit different functionality, is by making all the streaming services essentially their own services within Blueprint. It allows us to do some cool things, like directly call a service from a workflow, trigger actions based on what streaming service is active. You can do some cool stuff. You can directly call a streaming service from an in-wall keypad. If you have a kid's bedroom and they only watch Disney, it's a great use for that. It makes it nice and easy for the kiddo to get satisfied real fast and get them out of your hair. But what we'll show you here, so what we did on our system here for a recent demo is we built some trigger logic and some workflows to change some color strip lights that we put behind the TV to kind of make a nice little halo. And Steve Silberman from Savant actually kind of came up with this one. And basically the idea was to change the color of the strip to sort of match the streaming services, like the branding. So for Amazon it was one shade of blue. For Disney it was a different shade of blue. For Netflix it was that iconic Netflix red, and for Apple TV it was that super white. And it's kind of a cool effect. It's a neat thing to do, in your client's home, for the right client. And the way that we did that was we were only able to do that because each one of these streaming services is a service variant in and of itself. So we built some triggers, and those you can see up here. And essentially what that does is pretty straightforward. When a service is active, so for Apple TV, when service variant number 2, which is Apple TV, when it is active, we're going to run this workflow. And this workflow, what it does is it sends a lighting command to my strips at this address with these RGB values. So we went and we got a color sample from their logo. We put it into red, green, blue. We got those values. We populated those values in here with a 3-second fade time, so it's kind of dramatic and it pulses to life. And we made workflows for each one of our services that we wanted to do this for. And it's a great effect. Again, the way you do it is you just write your workflow here to change the lights, and when that service is active from whatever user interface you make it active from, the lights change. It's kind of cool. So again, same thing with Netflix. Variant number 7 is Netflix. Disney, variant number 3. Each has a workflow to change the lights to the specific color. And then when there's no service active, we have some logic here that if every one of our 4 preset value or preset services is false, then we turn those strips off. Makes it pretty cool. So that's a little bit about how to integrate a new Sony TV with the new Sony profile. Hope that was helpful, and as always, please like and subscribe to our channel, and leave a couple comments if there's any other videos that you want us to cover. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you see that right off the dome.